I feel like it's been a while since I did a palette ranking of all the palettes that I've been trying as of late. So we are going to sit down today and we are going to do a big, juicy palette ranking. The palettes that I've been trying as of late, how I feel about them now when some time has passed, letting you know which ones are my least favorite, going up to the one that I am just absolutely in love with. And I'm going to be honest, there's quite a few palettes in this video that are just like, so good. Some of these palettes I bought myself, some of these palettes I got in PR, some of these palettes I have an affiliate code with. If you're wondering about any of those things, all of that will be in the description box, and some of these palettes that are available at more mainstream places, I will pop up in the YouTube shopping as well. Most of these palettes will be from indie brands, so if you're unsure like where to find them, what was the name of that one, what my discount code is, all the information will be in the description box. I'm gonna start at the very bottom and then I'm gonna work my way up, and we have quite a few palettes. I probably already told you in the title or in the thumbnail or somewhere how many palettes there are, and the bottom two palettes are gonna be bottom two palettes for a very simple reason, and that is not quality, preference. So I am gonna put in the bottom the Dede Signature Chromebook Volume 1, and this is the only reason is that this is an all shimmer palette, and I don't reach for those. This is beautiful. Like, this is stunning. There's a lot of stunning shades in here, but I get enough special shades in my palettes that have a mix of mattes and shimmers, so I don't necessarily feel myself that I need a palette with just special shades, because I prefer a palette that has a mix. I even love doing an all matte look. I kind of do that a lot, if I'm gonna be honest. And I just never reach for, if I'm ever doing an all matte look, let me put it like this. If I am ever doing a matte look with a palette and the shimmer that I'm looking for is not in that palette, I will go into my singles. I will not go into an all shimmer palette. I know that that is not everyone. And if you're looking for an all shimmer palette, this one is nice quality. The shimmers are very slick, very smooth, very beautiful. I know that this is one of Dede Signature's best sellers because she did say so on Instagram. So I know that I am definitely, I don't even know if I'm in the majority saying that, just that an all shimmer palette doesn't excite me that much. Nothing wrong with the quality. And I feel the same about this one. This is the Molten Chromes by Bella Beauté Bar. I love the shimmer formula and the matte formula from Bella Beauté Bar. I'm actually wearing their new palette, Poison Garden, on my eyes today. I filmed a reel with this palette, and I'm kind of sure that that reel is already live, so I will link that down below as well in case you want to see how I did this little look. If it's under a minute, I'll put it on YouTube too. I don't know why YouTube put their shorts limit to 1 minute when Instagram has a minute and a half. I just think that that was unnecessary, but if it's under a minute, I'll put it on YouTube too. Check the description box for a link. So what I did, they also did release an all matte palette together with this one. And like I had it in that little spiel that you saw before, I love an all matte look. I never do an all shimmer look. So I actually did something that I never do, which is that I moved some of the shades from this one. You can see this is an all matte. And I took some of the mattes from the all matte and I put the shimmers in that palette to create my own perfect mixture of a matte heavy palette with 6 special shades. So you're seeing the swatches of this palette, but it's just not what's in this my own palette here. It is beautiful shades. They are stunning. They're just not for me unless I can put them into the other palette, which I did. So I'll show you that in a little bit. The next one I have here is actually Gourmand Girls Gourmandises. I think that's how you help me, and I think that I've solved the puzzle. This is a palette that honestly has a really cute color story, but I don't love the quality of this, and I think you can even see this formula is not the shimmer formula that I am used to from Gourmand Girls. It is very pretty on the eyes, but it creases almost immediately. Like, it creased within an hour on me, and I don't feel like the pastels are as pigmented and grippy as I want my pastels to be. And I don't feel like this palette is a representation of the brand. This is not the Gourmand Girls that I know and love, and you'll see one of the other palettes from the brand almost at the very top. I don't know what happened here. This one isn't my favorite, but you will see another palette that is very much in the upper part of this video. The next one is going to be from a new brand, and this is the Garden Busters palette by Us. by us. The brand is called By Us, and I know that this brand wanted to do something that was a little bit more quirky and just playful and colorful, and I really, honestly, I love this artwork. I love something that is fun. I love something, you know, when you don't take things just too seriously, you're just having fun with it, because that's how I feel with makeup. Because I mean, you can see the look that I have on today. Clearly, I'm not taking makeup too seriously. I wish the packaging was slim though. If this had been a slim packaging, because I know myself, at the end of the day, I have hundreds of eyeshadow palettes. The ones I'm gonna reach for are the ones that have the full package, and I just can't get on board with a thick packaging. A thick mama. I just really can't. I want something slim. The color story I think is really fun, but these have that like squishy, more like a putty kind of a formula that I know a lot of people absolutely love. Not my favorite. Not bad, not my favorite. I was able to do something pretty. It didn't crease on me. I wish this palette went a little darker, and I also think that it is colorful, it is fun, but I think it's lacking a little bit of a like, so what is the color story? Because it is like almost a rainbow, like borderline. And I know some people hated that the pans are different sizes. I don't mind it as much because at least it's following a pattern, and the shimmery all have the same and the matte all have the same. It's like an organized chaos. That's not the one thing that puts me off. For me, it's the thick packaging. That's the one thing where I'm like, not my favorite. Here we have another palette from Dede Signature, and this is the Sweet Aesthetics. I actually really like this packaging. It is a matte touch cardboard packaging, which is my absolute favorite kind of packaging. This like matte, oh, I love it. I think it's slim, I think it's cute, and you open it and it is an all matte palette. And for me, this is very mid-tone. I've seen the owner of Dede Signature, who has a darker skin tone. She has used this one and it gives more contrast on her skin tone. So if you are looking for something that could be almost like brights and pastels on a deeper skin tone, I honestly think that this could be the one. I think that it looked absolutely beautiful on her skin tone. I want something that goes even lighter or even darker. I just want a little bit more contrast within here. With that being said, these two colors in the corner here, they absolutely give me life. I love these two colors here. I think they are so pretty. Now we're getting into a mainstream palette, and this is the Natasha Denona I Need a Warm palette, which, say it with me, we did not need a warm palette. And I honestly think, I know this isn't the same as her other palettes, but you can, if you have one or two neutral palettes from Natasha Denona, you can get something similar than what you can get from this, from those. This is almost like a best of warms and neutrals in a palette, and I've said that when I did a first impression of this palette. If you look here, I personally think that this is neutrals, not warm tones, neutrals, and then there is two rows of more warm leading shades on the side. This one is a multi-chrome, and I've said this as well. This is not a neutral palette with a twist. This is just unhinged when you're putting a red to gold to green duochrome in an all brown palette. I just don't think that that makes sense at all. You're just putting an expensive shade in here, and I don't feel like it goes with the palette. Again, that is my personal opinion, and also maybe an opinion from someone who's, I don't want to say I'm tired of special shades, because I'm not, but I'm tired of special shades being in the palette for the sake of just being in a palette. And I think this one is a typical example of that, because you can do neutral multi-chrome shadows. Cleona has done a bunch. I just felt like this was an easy cop-out. Oh, just put in the most typical shift in the world in there, the green to gold to red, and it's just like, we've seen that. You could have done better. I have yet to do a look on my channel with this palette, and I still want to do that. I actually did a member tutorial with this one, and I've used it outside of YouTube together with other palettes, and I still feel kind of bad that I haven't done a look with this. I was actually thinking that I was going to film something today with this, but then the Bella Beauté bar showed up, and you can clearly see that this is just so much more fun. What I will say with this palette, and I think the main reason why I'm just like a little meh, is that there is only one dark shade in here, and it is the burgundy. Everything else is just mid-tone or light, and I didn't fall in love with any of the shimmers. They're all just pretty meh. And this could be me just, I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't wowed by this color story. I swatched it out and I was like, okay. I don't, honestly, I opened this palette and I don't know what to do with it. There's something about this palette that doesn't inspire me. Maybe it's the undertones, maybe it's the lack of another deep shade, maybe it's the shimmers, maybe it is all of the above. There's something about this where I'm like, it's fine, but it's just not super inspiring. And that is the main reason why I actually chose to put the Too Faced, I think it's Appley in Love, on top. This is really pretty. I had a video with this one. I really enjoyed this palette, and I think per usual with Too Faced shadows, I think the mattes, they swatch so-so, but they're really beautiful on the eyes. The shimmers are good for being mainstream, especially mid-ranged mainstream. Like this kind of a price range. Is this anywhere near indie brand shimmers? No. But I do think that this is one of the more exciting palettes that I have tried from, like, I honestly, clearly, I think it's more exciting than the Natasha Denona one. There's a couple of palettes here that I ranked lower than this one. This one excites me more than that. Something about the color story, something about the contrast. This one is really pigmented and beautiful. This one goes deep enough for me. I like that there are two greens here, one more muted, one more bright. I just think that this is a fun palette, and especially if you don't buy indie, if you only buy from mainstream, I think if you have never tried indie, you'll probably be super, super, super impressed with this one. As someone who has been trying indie for quite some years and seen that community grow, I feel a little bit like Shania Twain. I'm like, that doesn't impress me that much, but I still think it's really good for being mainstream. So I still kind of recommend it. Now we're coming into two palettes that I honestly thought I was gonna love even more, and I do feel slightly bad for putting them in this position. But first and foremost, I'm here for you, for the viewers. I'm here to help you in your purchasing decisions. And I gotta be honest, I was hoping for more from the Clionadh palettes. This is the Oceano palette. This is the new one, the one that's not re-released. And I really, okay, this one is the best palette if you just look at the shadows standalone. The one thing that I mean, if you just want to dip in and use one or two shadows at a time, beautiful. These are beautiful, these are beautiful, they go together. It's when you start trying to mix the different shades together, that's when you realize that this color story just doesn't really make sense as a whole. This is more a collection of great singles than it is a color story that makes sense across the board. I might sound rude saying that, and I don't mean to, and this also of course comes from my perspective of like how I like to do my makeup. I think that this one, like I said, has the best collection of shades, but it doesn't 100% make sense together. I think if you love the kind of mattes that are very silky and pigmented, and they usually have a lot of kick up, but they're very easy to blend, but they don't have any grip to them, like they don't build as good as I wish they would. That's what these are. Very like silky, very beautiful. They look smooth on the skin. It's when you start to try and build or blend them together that I don't think they are as good as some other mattes. Are they bad mattes? Absolutely not. But they're not gonna be my absolute favorite. I am happy to see that they're back with mattes. I just hope that we get to see even better and even better in the future. The next one is going to be the second palette, which is the Paleo palette. This one is a re-released palette, and I am so happy that they're back. I feel bad. I do, because I love Cleona and I love the owner so much. It wasn't perfect for me. And I feel like when I opened this palette, I feel like maybe this color story needed a little bit more of an update. Because again, for me, it's just missing some things. This is a little bit more mid-toned, and then the dark blue. And I wasn't super inspired by this, although I do think that this color story makes a little bit more sense than the other one. Not bad, especially the shimmers are incredible, but they're also very expensive. So I do try to take that into consideration. There is a third palette in this one as well. That one I actually liked a whole lot more. So that one's going to be in a bit. The next one is Arttitude Cosmetics Metamorph palette. I don't want to offend someone because I know an artist made this. I don't love this kind of a realistic just picture on the front of a palette. This, for me, this is not my preferred kind of a cover. That's very, very personal though. Very, very personal. Love the soft matte packaging. It's cardboard. You open it up. This color story, personally, I think there's a lot of really fun shades in here. I think it is this shade here that you got as a single. I do have to deduct a little bit for that because this shade is apparently the wrong shade and you got the right shade as a single, but this one isn't magnetic, so I don't really know still how to get it out. Some people said that I could warm underneath with the glue and it will pop out. I might try that eventually, but I also am in the position where I have so many palettes that I'm like, oh, when am I supposed to have time for that? I still have the single shadow. I do have to deduct a little bit for the fact that we are releasing a palette that we know had one dud. I understand why sometimes we have to do the choices that we do as a makeup company, but that doesn't mean that we can't be, I mean, I have to take that into consideration. Like I have to. I think that this color story is one too many curveballs. I think that this green, this could have been a nice pop, but it doesn't fit in. This pink, if you take one of these, like a little bit more, like super pops, there's a couple of things here. Okay, how do I put this? I'm trying to explain this in a way that it makes sense. This palette is a purple, blue, pink palette, but there's just one too many odd pops in here that makes it not super easy on the eye. And it makes it to the point where if you're gonna do a look, not everything goes together. Again, according to how I do my makeup. And I think that's the main reason why I deducted a couple of points, is this one is the wrong one. And I do think that, like, if we have just taken one of these more like brighter things out, I honestly think that if we have taken this green out and gave us like maybe a mint instead, or like, I don't know, a light baby blue, something that just, I don't know. And that's just me. Again, personal preference, nothing wrong with the quality, except of course that one that is a dud. It is what it is, but I gotta review them somehow and just give you my thoughts on how I feel about them. Arttitude Cosmetics also is a UK-based indie brand, and Clionadh Cosmetics is a Canadian-based indie brand. I know sometimes when we are living in different countries, we sometimes order based on where they're located because sometimes it just makes it a little bit easier. There is also a retailer in Canada that's called I Feel Beautiful. If you Google I Feel Beautiful Canada, you will find a retailer. They have a bunch of indie brands. They have my indie brand Cinch Beauty. Same with Europe. If you Google Monolith Europe or Monolith Makeup or something like that, you will find there is an EU-based indie brand store. They have a bunch of different indie brands, again, including my own indie brand. If you are living in different places and you still want to purchase from these brands, but it just makes it a little easier. This is one of the quads from Game Beauty and Attack on Titan. And I actually never got around to using, I think it's 2 more quads. I've only used this one, but this one I have used and I think it is beautiful. This is the one they call Sina, and you can tell why I've used this one. I love orange, I love yellow. This is a beautiful quad. Honestly, I should have brought this one when I went to Portland, Maine, because we even filmed the video showing the makeup we brought, and I was saying, oh, I wish I brought a yellow. This is so great for traveling. The shadows are beautiful. They work together. They build. They're beautiful. This is a beautiful, like, orangey metallic down here. And you can make a great look just with this one. I always travel with Natasha Denona Mini Xenon palette. So these two together would create all the contrast and all the things that I need in a look. And I just think that this is beautiful. I think this is a very well thought out quad. I think the quality is really beautiful. They had some other ones as well, but clearly I just was super, super drawn to this orangey one because I love orange, I love yellow. You can't tell today, but that's my jive. This is the Unearthly Cosmetics Night Terror palette, and I know these two have a fairly similar color story. Let me actually show you and see if I can, and let me like explain why I personally like the one from Unearthly more. The one from Unearthly is just a little bit more well thought through. There are less shades, yes, but I think the Unearthly one has a better color story. And I also think this one comes in a mystery box and you get a lip gloss and a highlighter as well, which are really, really pretty. But I just think that this color story is just, again, it makes it a little easier to look at. There is something about this that just makes it easier on the eyes because I feel like the color story is a little bit better thought through. At the end of the day, it comes down to personal preferences. I think the quality of both of them are really good. They're buildable, they're blendable. I love the 3 shimmers that are in here. I think these are absolutely stunning. I did a video with this, unpacking this mystery box, and I love the look that I had in that video. So definitely check that one out as well if you are interested. Now we are getting into the all matte palette from Bella Beauté bar. This is the melted mattes. And of course, in mine, there are shimmers, but just ignore them. Ignore those and just think that those are the mattes from the other palette. I really love a good matte palette. I do, and I love the mattes from Bella Beauté bar. They're beautiful. See, I put the shimmers in here. I'm going to show you some swatches of just the mattes. This palette is 2 rows of neutrals, going from black to white, and then lots of neutrals in between. And then there is 1 row of just brights and 1 row of neons. It's just a very fun color story. If you like these kind of yellow, peaches, oranges, pinks, like a red, if you liked, I love that, and you want to get that mix, these are great mattes. And again, you can move these around and get other stuff in, like the Bella Beauté bar palette that I have on my eyes today. You can move stuff around, and I gotta be honest, the quality is beautiful, and I prefer an all matte palette over an all shimmer palette. If you don't, then this definitely just will not be for you. It is what it is. Another brand that I really love the quality of is Blend Bunny Cosmetics, and this is the collection that they did with Doni Darkowitz, and I love Blend Bunny palettes, and the reason why this one is a little lower than the other ones that they have done is that this row on my skin tone, this row is just lacking a lot of distinction and contrast. They're all too similar on my skin tone. Also, these 2 shimmers here, they are so similar to the point where it's almost impossible to see the difference. I can see when I look super closely at them, one is slightly more warm toned and one is slightly more cool toned, but they both have the same shift. They both have the same formula, and I cannot even in my wildest imagination come up with a situation where you need both. Again, personal preference, so I gotta deduct a little bit for that. Otherwise, loving the red and purple together is always a favorite combo. I did a look like that for YouTube, absolutely loved it. I just also have to be honest and point out the things that for me I think are flaws. Now we are coming into the Archeo palette. I love this color story. I have been so obsessed with yellows together with browns and yellows together with green. There's something about yellows that just makes me so happy. And this yellow shimmer here is just so good. And the looks that I've done with this is so great. And this is a green to a brown, almost like a green to a gold to a peachy brown multi-chrome, and it really brings a new element. This is what I was talking about with the Natasha Denona. Now this one is green, yeah, that this one wouldn't fit in here, but at least they have a green matte in here. I'm just saying there are so many different multi-chromes that you can do that would have made sense in the Natasha Denona palette. I mean, the green to a peach, maybe not, but like sometimes we can do muted multi-chromes. That there are multi-chromes that don't have a green shift, I promise, that would have made more sense in that palette. I just think that this is a really fun neutral palette, but still has some twists. If I'm gonna be honest, we didn't need this blue because again, the way that I do my makeup, I never really do one matte and one shimmer. I know a lot of people do that, and if you do that, you have that combo here if you want to do an all blue. But I don't like when I get a mid-tone blue like this and I don't get anything to use with it. It's not my favorite. It's not my absolute favorite, but of the palettes that they released, the Archeo is my favorite and I've really been enjoying that one. Now, here comes a neutral palette. I think this is an excellent neutral palette. This is the Glaminatrix Cosmetics Barely Basic palette. And this one It has the neutral, it's like a taupey roll, but it's not so taupey that it looks gray on me. This actually looks more like a taupe on me. We have the murky greens, love it, with the olives. Then we have like almost like a clayey reddish brown, and then we have a like almost like a mauve and then a dark berry. You have one row of shimmers here, they're iridescent toppers, and then one row there's just very metallic. One of them, I think the green one here is a multichrome. Again, it is, I think it is this one. Yeah, that is like a green to a red. But again, we have green, we have red. It kind of makes sense in a way that it didn't do in the other palette. And I just think that this is a really cool concept with doing a neutral palette that is neutrals, but it's still a berry. There is still olives. There are still special shades. There are dark shimmers. There are light shimmers. We are getting some variation. We are getting some depth. We are getting some contrast. I think that this one is really great, and I think the quality is really great. And Glaminatrix Cosmetics is based out of Australia. Honestly, I should check out where in Australia she is, because as you're seeing this video, I'm actually in Australia, I think, or maybe I'm in Greece. Listen. This upcoming month is bananas. Let's get into the palette that I mentioned in the beginning. This is the Gourmand Girls Peach Perfect palette. I think, again, slim, really nice packaging. It has some peaches on the front, and the color story is really, really beautiful. You have greens, you have peaches, you have a little neutral here. You can do brown if you want to. I like when a palette gives you a neutral option. For that day when you want to play with your new palette, or you want to play with a specific palette, but just not feeling the green or the bright peaches, I think that that is great. There are 1, 2, 3 peach mattes, 2 more neutral mattes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 greens, and I love a good green. This like peach shimmer here is so impressive, and this one has so many fun particles in there. The shimmers are so impressive. The mattes are so impressive. Really like this palette. I like it so much that the banner and my profile picture on my social media is now me using this palette, because I think the look is just stunning. I was very much, I think we're in the top 5. I was very much going back and forth contemplating what was going to be in my top 5, because honestly, I would say like top 7, all of those palettes are just absolute hits. I think they are incredible, and it was really hard for me to be like, what do I really like the most? What do I really rate the highest? And what do I really think are the most unique and exciting and fun for my collection? And also, of course, like quality and stuff like that. So I put the Ensley Rain Flutter palette here. I gotta say, I want more smaller palettes from Ensley Rain. These new small palettes are so fun. I absolutely love this one. This is the one that's a little bit more darker and a little bit more grungy, and I think this color story is absolutely stunning, and I love the looks that I have done. The shimmers are so beautiful. I think the reason why I put this as number 5 is because out of the palettes that are now here, there is one shade here, like this one. I will never use that shade, and I also don't know 100%, like these 2 shades here, I don't know what I would use this peach with. So these 2 shades are a little like off for me in this palette, but overall the rest of it is just incredible, and it all just goes together so well, and the shimmers are so beautiful, and I love this quality, and I love that they did smaller palettes. Next is the Unearthly Cosmetics Gargoyle palette. I think this is so beautiful. I wore this palette, well, yesterday for me. I don't know when you saw it, but this, again, it is a palette that has blues, and you can tell I love blues. It has berries, and it has a neutral like row here that I used, and I really love it. This is gonna be gray on me. If you have a cool skin tone, this is probably gonna look taupe on you, but I just think there's a lot of options here, and I'm also loving that we have 2 really light, like pastel seafoam colors, one matte and one shimmer, that just goes with so many things in this palette. So it brings you a pop that doesn't look like an eyesore in the palette. It gives you something different that you can use in your inner corner or on your lid or to blend out with, that doesn't have a natural companion in here, but somehow just works with the entire thing. This palette is stunning. The formulas are beautiful. The special shades are just amazing, and I'm very impressed with this. And I love the little gargoyle. So cute. I'm still contemplating if this is my favorite Nomad palette to date. It might be. And this is the Fuji 5 Lakes palette. And the packaging, it is set up to look like a canvas, like oil painting. It has texture to it. It is so beautiful. This texture to this palette is just like unlike anything I've ever seen. It is so beautiful. And I love this color story so much. This one has 2 shades that on me are dark enough. Like I can use those as an outer corner and they are dark enough for me. I love the selection of yellow, a mustard, a bright, a pastel, and then this shimmer that is just absolutely incredible. There's a topper blue, there's a pastel blue, there are some deeper shades. There's this absolutely incredible peach like shimmer in here, and then there is a matte brown. I have said the only thing I wish this palette had done instead of what is here, I would have moved this one here, and I would have made this one into a dark brown, because a dark brown, then you have the option to do a dimensional neutral look if you want to, and you could also deepen up the yellows very easily with the dark brown. That is just my preference, and let's be honest, whoever buys this palette probably has a matte brown at home. And if you do own this palette, and if you're wondering of new ways to use this palette, incorporating a dark brown with this palette will give you even more options to mix these colors together and to create even more options of like how you could wear them. That's the only thing that I would change. Take out one of the shimmery blues and put in a matte dark brown. Again, we're getting into small petty details, and this has nothing to do with quality. This has everything just to do with personal preference. And at the end of the day, I mean, I can bring up personal preference until I lose my voice, but my personal preference isn't everyone's personal preference, so I don't want to deduct too many points on things that are just like, just could be just a me thing. I think some of you are going to be surprised that this palette is number 2 and not number 1. Who thought, raise your hands, who thought that Cosmic Brush's Undergrowth was going to be number 1? Raise your hands. Seeing some hands. Seeing some hands. This is amazing. And the more I have thought about this palette, the more I have realized that this is definitely top 3 my favorite Cosmic Beauty palettes, but I still think that the blue Winter Wonderland is a little bit more unique. But I still think this is beautiful. And if I made a look with the Winter Wonderland and I made a look with this one, I would probably prefer the look with this one because it is like yummy greens and I love that. But I think the other palette is even better because it is so impressive that a blue palette can be that good. I hope that this makes sense, but this is still absolutely wonderful. I keep calling it Cosmic Beauty, Cosmic Brushes interchangeably. They used to be Cosmic Brushes, but now they do makeup as well, so they're Cosmic Beauty. Beautiful palette, beautiful quality. If you didn't buy the Yucca palette, I would say that this one is an expanded, more affordable Yucca palette with special shades, and I actually like this more than the Yucca palette. And you know I love the Yucca palette. Number one, if you've keeping score, like you know what's coming up. And I gotta say, I have been having to stop myself from using this palette. I just think that this Flourish palette by Ensley is so pretty. This color story, and it's so fun. It's so bright. It's so unexpected. And there's just so much going on in here, and you might look at this and be like, oh, and nothing goes together, but it all goes together. There is a pastel yellow that I use in my inner corner, and honestly, it goes together with everything else in this palette. And then there is this like blackened plummy shade that you can deepen up any of these colors because of the undertone of this one. If you use this together with the green, it's gonna look brown. If you use this together with the pink, it's gonna look plum. It's a very smart color to put in a palette like this. I say as someone who has done the exact same thing herself in a palette, but hey, smart people think alike. The shimmers are incredible. There's such a variety in textures, in sheens, in shifts. I love that there's like neon, a little bit more muted, pastel, there's darks, there's toppers. It's just, this palette brings me joy, and this palette reminds me of what I love with makeup. It is bright, it is unexpected, it is smart, it is just inspiring, and I love this. And like I said with the other palette, I really hope that this is not the last small palette we get from NC Rain. The compact feels so substantial and so nice. There is a mirror, this is very sturdy, nice. So impressed with this palette. And this palette, I have used this several times on camera. I almost again used it again today because I was like, oh, I can use this one together with the Beauty Bay palette to make that one maybe a little bit more exciting. I have had to stop myself. Also, like, I've used this so much outside of YouTube when I've been wanting to add something or been wanting to do something. The pastel yellow I've reached for so many times. This green is incredible. This shade right here, like, it is, like, do you see that? Oh, it's so pretty. Oh my, look at that. I just, so impressed. Absolutely love that palette. Please, 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 we need more palettes in that format. Honestly, I would love something like this. Bright blue and just neon. I would love that. Anyways, this was my ranking. Let me know if you don't agree. That's perfectly fine. Friends can be friends without agreeing about everything, but friends are always kind and respectful towards each other. Don't forget to check the description box for more info, and also don't forget to subscribe because there's definitely going to be more videos, and I will see you real soon again in a new video. Bye!